Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner, operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our program today. Now, if you've been watching or listening to our show for a while, you'll know that what we do is we take an individual film and me and a special guest go through and we kind of critique, analyze, generally have a really good conversation about the film. That being said, the movie we're talking about today, we're going to have a really good conversation about, because that's the only way to describe what we feel about this movie. And before I get to the title of the movie and I ruin everything for you, I want to bring on my special guest, which is Thomas Tidorello. I want to thank you for joining us today on the program.
Kevin, I am very happy to join you on this dark and cold and chilly night in Georgia, where I live, where we just had snow the other day, little tiny flecklets of snow, the first snow of the year. There's a chill in the air. And I predict, I think the weathermen are saying this too, that's going to be a very snowy December here in Georgia.
Yeah, I kind of got that impression too about the weather. We should not have had snow 2 days ago, and it just started coming down, which was kind of surprising everyone. But thank you, Thomas, for joining us on the show. Thankfully, we filmed this via Zoom in our homes, so the cold won't affect us that much.
We are safe. We are safe in here from the terrors of the night.
For the time being, because as we are about to discuss, we are about to figure out that the movie that we are talking about tonight is Sam Raimi's Army of Darkness from 1992. And, I already know most of you, if not everyone out there listening to our program, has seen this film. And if you haven't, shame on you. You need to go see this film, whether you've seen the first two films in the franchise or not.
Although, Kevin, I just checked the interwebs just now. If you out there have the misfortune of not having seen this movie yet, it might be hard for you to do so, because I looked around to see if it was streaming for free anywhere, and it doesn't look like it is.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I think it's Universal, and so Universal doesn't have their own streaming service. So
yes, they do. It's called Peacock.
No, well, not really. A lot of Universal.
I wouldn't. No. You know what? I wouldn't blame Universal for this. I will blame one man who we may or may not talk a lot about, but his name is pretty much forced in the credits of this movie, and his name is Dino freaking De Laurentiis. That man has a stranglehold over so many of his properties. I'm pretty sure he died fairly recently. I'm not sure. I think his daughter runs the company now. But yeah, Dino has weird copyright issues like that. He is the reason why Phantasm 2 was not available for streaming for free for a very long time. So 4 years ago, if you wanted to have yourself a Phantasm marathon, which now is my favorite horror franchise. Before that, it was the Evil Dead trilogy, but now it is Phantasm. I love all the Phantasms. You had to skip part 2, which was the biggest budgeted one of all of them, and some people's favorite Phantasm, all because of Dino.
Yeah. Well, Dino did that a lot for a lot of franchises. I don't think there would be an Army of Darkness if it wasn't for Dino, to be honest with you, because it's not like Evil Dead 2 was this huge blockbuster film, and he put a lot of money into making this happen 5 years after the last one. He took a chance.
In fact, I'm pretty sure that Dino also produced Evil Dead 2, because I remember correctly in the commentary, they said that his company would not put out an X-rated movie, and Evil Dead 2 got an X rating in their first submission, so they changed it to Rosebud Pictures or something. So they basically made a fake distribution company.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, the Rosebud was it. That being said, there is two main versions of this film, and I do have to ask before we discuss the movie, which version did you watch for this, or are you going to be referencing? We're going to talk about both of them, so it doesn't really matter as much.
I think there's 3, Kevin, because I think there is the original theatrical version, the director's cut, otherwise known as the brown paper bag version or the bootleg edition. Then there's the TV version, ? Of the / international version.
I think you're right because the movie was so short. I think they added some time for the television.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think you're right about that.
So and thank God for um oh I don't know what company did it. I think it's Shout Factory. Praise God for Shout Factory because their 4K edition, which I own, and it is the for me it is the definitive edition of Army of Darkness. It has all of them.
Mm.
I think it has just the first two are in 4K, the rest are in regular Blu-ray. Um, but it's such a great edition. It's got everything you could ever want. But the first time I saw this masterpiece of cinema,
Mm.
and I say that with zero irony, 0%. I say this with negative irony. This movie is a masterpiece. -1. I have -1 irony when I say this movie is fantastic. I think that what I must have seen, I mean, clearly I was too young to have, well, was I too young to have seen? Yeah, yeah, I was too young to have seen it in theaters. Although I do remember the trailers for it. I
Huh.
do remember the trailers for saying the Evil Dead, they live, they breathe, they suck. I remember seeing that. And then I just kind of left out of my brain for a while. And then I must have seen it on cable, on say maybe USA Network or TBS or something like that. So the initial version that I saw was probably the TV version or the international version, which has lots of stuff that was cut from the theatrical version. So
Hmm.
when I finally saw the theatrical, I was like, wait a minute, wait. He punches Arthur in the face as soon as he gets off at the wait, what? And then he gets a sword and puts the king on his back and says, "You just let it be," and all that. Like there were great moments that were cut, although there are some great lines that are cut.
Hmm.
Uh, but I remember it because it's a freaking movie I love, and I remember every single moment of it pretty much. I'm like, hey, there's something missing here. What's going on? Later on, I find out. Oh, they did that to make it longer. I see. But it's funny though, because this movie, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, this movie was basically Sam Raimi's kind of not his big mainstream debut because that was Darkman. He did that. Darkman was a moderate success. The fantastic story of Liam Neeson getting revenge on people, which eventually became a genre in and of itself.
Mhm.
Um, but this movie was his follow up to that. I guess you could say that Darkman was his big screen, his big budget debut, and then Army of Darkness was kind of like his I get to do whatever I want movie. It's
Right.
kind of like I think somebody once said that this is the Gremlins 2 of the Evil Dead franchise. You know how how legend has it Joe Dante was literally given carte blanche to do anything in in Gremlins 2 and literally tested the limits of studio uh of studio interference by literally just doing anything he wanted. But by and large, though, from by all accounts, this movie was not interfered with by studios at all. Dino pretty much let them do whatever they want. I think maybe they only had the ending, which we'll talk about later, was maybe influenced by some test audience things, but that's about it. I mean, this is full. This is full Sam Raimi. This is Sam Raimi probably at his most Raimiest. I mean, it's got so much corny spectacle. It's so big. It's so insane. It's so Three Stooges cartoonishly violent. It's got everything a boomer kid could ever want in a movie. It's got sword fights. It's got macho guys on horsebacks. It's got, fiery catapults. It's got wizards. It's got babes. It's got, kisses by a firelight. It's got tally ho. It's got a guy literally on a rope and swings saying tally ho, which he did twice now, this and Spider-Man. But yeah, it's got all of that. And unfortunately, because this movie was a bomb, we didn't get another movie like that for a very long time.
No, we did not. Even Sam Raimi. Well, you know what? His follow up to this, which was The Quick and Dead, which I've always loved that movie. Had the same type of humor, but it was pared down tremendously from his previous films.
Oh yeah, Quick of the Dead is like a chamber drama compared to this movie.
I think, and to be honest with you, with Sam Raimi's career as a director prior to his making it really big with Spider-Man, he kind of towed the line there, going back and forth to the different types of films that he made, which is why I think he's endured as long as he has. And
Mhm.
why I still enjoy watching every film he does, not only the ones he directs, but also the ones he produces, because he produces a lot of great movies.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like Sam Raimi is, I would call him. I'm not sure if I would call him a singular artist because to me, I don't use that term pretentiously. To me, a singular artist is somebody I would define in film as a director whose work you look at and you can tell within a minute and 30, that this is something by this artist.
Yeah.
And the style of which they compose scenes, the feeling, the vibe, whatever you want to call it, all that is fairly unique to them. Like you look at a Hitchcock movie and you know that is Hitchcock,
Yeah.
and nobody and you might be able to tell some influence from the German expressionists, but for the most part, he is Hitchcock, and nobody else does Hitchcock. At least not until Brian De Palma came along. Um,
Yeah.
But you know, and then of course, you know, Argento and everybody else. But like another great example of this is like Terrence Malick, you know, the guy
Yeah.
who did Thin Red Line and Days of Heaven and you know Tree of Life. You look at that guy and look at any other director, nobody else is like Terrence Malick.
No,
Nobody
no.
else, nobody else does cinema poetry the way Terrence Malick does.
Poetry.
But
Word to say for his work.
yeah,
Poetry.
yeah, it is. It is exactly what it is. But you look at Sam Raimi, and Sam Raimi would never consider himself an artist. He would consider himself maybe a really good craftsman
He's
of the
so
moving
humble.
image. He's so humble,
He's so humble.
but yet he does do the thing where he shows up to set dressed in a suit and tie like
Yeah.
Hitchcock. For at least that's what the legend says. I've seen
Yeah.
pictures of him doing that. I don't know if he still does that, but you know, it's almost as if it's like he has Hitchcock's command of the camera, but I would say, I mean, I was going to say, but like Spielberg's childlike innocence, but yet Spielberg on his best, on his worst day, is not. Spielberg is never this deliriously mean spirited as Sam Raimi is. Like Spielberg could never just mirthlessly just mistreat his characters the way Sam Raimi does.
No, he couldn't. No, he couldn't. And you know, yeah, no, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell and what they've accomplished over the long careers together, friendships that lasted before they were making these short films. Even the short film that inspired this whole franchise, you know, which I've
Within
actually
the
seen.
Woods.
Yeah, which I've seen most of his short films, surprisingly. Uh, Oh yeah, 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 yeah. You can get you can find the short films, and some of them are really rough, like he says. Sam Raimi is described. Oh, so yeah. So for everyone out there, I've read several of the books on Sam Raimi and his filmmaking, especially with the original Evil Dead, and he mentions all kinds of his stories about when they were shooting their early films before they came into doing the Evil Dead. And then by the time they get to this movie, you know, he's just mistreating Bruce Campbell because it's second nature to him to do, uh, which is hilarious to me. And Bruce Campbell just goes with the flow, and he does it so brilliantly in this film, and has such crackerjack timing. It's ridiculous. Uh,
It's almost as if Bruce and Sam, I think, may have been subtly. I mean, they always had the Three Stooges as their main
yeah,
influence, comedically speaking. But because Bruce takes so much physical torment, he's such a physical comedian, especially in Evil Dead 2, and a little bit more in this one. I feel like Bruce has got to be taking some cues from Buster Keaton a little bit.
I wouldn't be surprised either. No, I wouldn't
Yeah,
be surprised.
obviously, yeah, they have to have been taken from old Stoneface a little bit because he could take so much punishment. Um, but I think that Raimi likes to do that in a sense that, and of course, he doesn't see himself as an artist, so he does this unintentionally, I think. But I think part of the what makes the tormenting of Bruce from movie to movie work really well, I think, is the fact that because Bruce looks the way he does,
Yeah.
because he is a square-jawed, handsome, jockish-looking guy with a swagger and loves the ladies. And this is the sort of alpha man hero who could do no wrong in movies in days of yore. And so Raimi, because he just loves tormenting people he loves, accidentally, I think, makes an artistic statement by completely destroying that archetype every chance he gets by literally throwing stuff at Bruce Campbell and smashing his face, punching his face, kneeing him in the balls, and slashing and putting so many cuts on that beautiful chin of his. And of course, there's a great story in his book how they used to have a template for the scars. They made this plastic template with holes in it so that the makeup lady could just fill them in from take to take, so that they would actually have continuity. Which, by the way, if you watch this movie, it's very rare that they care about continuity in Army of Darkness, but in this case they did. And at one point they were shooting some fight scenes earlier, and a piece of armor got Bruce's chin and just bled like a sieve all over, and they had to rush him to the hospital. And but he's in full makeup, so they get him in the chair, they get him in the gurney, and the nurse is looking at him like, "Oh my, what?" I think they were shooting this in London, so he was like, "Oh dear." But Bruce is like, "Oh no, it's okay. This is the only one that's real. All the rest are fake."
Yeah, well, I can attest to that reaction that people, when they see people, when they think they see random people dressed up and don't realize why they're dressed up. Because I have a story about this, because I was shooting a World War II movie with a friend of mine, and of course it's in the middle of the night, and and we all decide to take a break, and we're going to a gas station. So it's me and 5 Nazi soldiers.
Oh my God.
A gas station, and you should have seen the looks on their faces. Now, everyone who doesn't know what I look like out there who's listening, I'm an African American. So when the gas station attendant sees this African American walking in with 5 Nazi soldiers, it was one of the funniest moments I had ever experienced, because we didn't realize all this. We're over there. Oh, it's 2 a.m. in the morning. We need something to keep us up. So
nobody's gonna notice.
Oh my God. I wish that I had a cell phone back then to record that, because that would have been timeless. And I tell the story every time, and it comes up every time I'm talking about this movie that we did. And I'm like, that was one of the funniest things that we ever experienced, because and it's always like that anytime you're on the film set, when normal people see us in costume and we just forget.
Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. So, like I was telling you off air earlier, we were talking about how we experienced this movie. Of course, like you saw. Did you wait? By the way, did you see this movie in the theaters? I don't think you did. Did you?
So, yeah, I was letting you tell your story. So, with me, I saw this movie at the theater. Now, I actually wrote an article about this. So what happened is, I had seen the first 2 Evil Deads as bootlegs from a friend of my brother's. That I don't know how he ever got bootlegs in the fucking I guess that was in the 80s. So he was getting bootlegs of this stuff on VHS, and he would send them to us, me and my brother, and we would watch these movies. Like, we couldn't figure out where he ever got these movies. And I saw Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 on the same night, and I was like flabbergasted. I fucking loved those 2 films because I was a huge horror fan. I didn't know what I was watching. It was like raw. It was like raw. It was terrifying and yet funny at the same time. And I'm like, oh my God, where's the 3rd movie? And I need to know how this fucking movie ended. I'm like, where's it go? Ash gets sucked into the past. Oh my God. And for 5 years, I waited. And the only news I ever had about waiting for movies is reading Fangoria. And I would leave paging through every issue of Pag. When the hell is the next Evil Dead 3 coming out? When's it coming out? We didn't have internet back then. So I was like, and when this movie came out, I begged my father to go see this movie and take me to go see this movie at the theater, because I was too young to actually go by myself. And so he didn't know what he was getting into, because my father didn't watch the horror movies. He didn't know what the hell Army of Darkness was. he takes us to go see this movie. I think it's me and my younger sister, who I don't know if she remembers anything like this. Anyways, I don't even know if she wanted to see this movie, but I'm there.
We should call her up right now. Let's call her up on the phone.
I'm there at the front of the theater, like in the front, in the center. My dad's in the very, very freaking back, which is where he normally chills back in the day when he took us to the movies that he didn't have any clue about. I'm in there in the front. Now, no one was in the theater. There's probably 5 people in this theater on opening night. Opening night, literally the Friday opening night, we're going to see this movie, and there's only like 5, maybe 6 people in there, other than me and my sister and my dad, and I was floored. I absolutely love this movie. I turn around like 15, 20 minutes to see where my dad was. He already walked out. He's gone. I and the thing is, when I asked him where'd he went, he went to the lobby. He says, "Man, I don't know what that was." I can't remember the exact words, but pretty much the idea is, "What did you take me to go see? What was that?" And he walked out 15, 20 minutes of the movie, and I'm like, "Oh no, Dad, we gotta go see this again."
I don't know what he. You know what? He probably looked at the big screen, saw a huge, bare-chested white guy in chains who said it's 1300 AD and I am a slave
I
being
guarantee you.
dragged to my death, and he's like, "I'm out."
I guarantee you, dude. I don't. My father did not watch horror movies, but he took me to go see any movie I ever wanted to see as a kid, and I have to. I just loved my father about that. He would sit there for most films and just sit in the back, and while me and my sister would sit in the front watching these horror movies. And if he really hated it, he'd walk out like he did in Army of Darkness. He never saw Army of Darkness again. Trust me on that. But it's funny for me because I was waiting 5 years for this movie to come out, and it's still one of my all-time favorite movies that I could just throw it in. And I have 3 different versions of this movie myself. I've never bothered to get rid of. Uh, I could always just throw this movie in and enjoy it. And I watched this movie without having watched the first or second one. I just throw this one in by itself, which I also do with the first one. If I want to watch the second one, I have to watch the third one. But I can usually just watch the third one or the first one by itself, and I'm perfectly fine. So.
Which is funny because, from what I understand, uh, for whatever reason, Universal Studios and Dino, I'm sure, was like, "We got to release this as a standalone movie. We
Yes.
can't call it Evil Dead 3 or use the original title," which Sam Raimi, in his genius, said, "We should call it The Medieval Dead."
Well,
The Medieval Dead, which would have been the greatest title in the history of man and God. But they said, no, 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 no. It's almost as if Universal was kind of embarrassed to be associated with Evil Dead 1 and 2.
they don't have the rights. They don't have the rights.
Right, you're right. That's what it was. Because now I remember that because I remember now because like when Raimi was trying to do Evil Dead 2, he was going to do a recap of the events of Evil Dead 1 with the original actors, or in the very least, stand-ins for them. And literally, like, because it was all because in the original, for those of you who don't know, who were literally born 2 days ago, hello, babies. The original was a cabin in the woods. A bunch of friends get there and unleash some evil demons that possess them and turn them into evil zombies. And the only survivor is Bruce Campbell until he gets possessed at the end, and the credits roll. We assume he died too. But then Evil Dead 2 would have taken. He was like, "Okay, we're gonna show you what happened right up to the point where he gets possessed, and then we're rolling, and then we'll keep going." So really, guys, if you want to get the full experience, disregard the first 10 minutes or 5 minutes of Evil Dead 2 and just start it right at the point where he gets possessed. And like right at the end of Evil Dead 1, you will have one continuous. Although I hear there's an edit out there that's like that. Somebody did that. But
I believe so too. I think it's online where someone did an edit like that. Yeah.
yeah. But when they made Army of Darkness, they did not have but they had to. I'm sorry, going back. When they made Evil Dead 2, they were going to do all that, but they didn't have the rights to their own movie. They did not have the rights to any of the footage from Evil Dead 1. So they had to literally just make a sequel/remake and make a weird kind of discontinuity between the first 2 movies that has led to, re-edits like that one, or weird theories like one I had where I imagined, okay, what if Ash, it was daylight, maybe the evil took over his body, then left his body, but like erased his memory, and he is just found on the highway wandering all bloody and bruised and not knowing who he was or anything. And they found the bodies, what's left of them, which now that I think about it wasn't very much at the end of Evil Dead 1, because the whole meltdown thing. So he goes back to town. They blame him for the death of his friends, which Ash versus Evil Dead, the TV show, tells you
Okay.
that's exactly what happened. So I thought, oh well, then maybe Ash kind of abandoned that town and tried to start his life over again. Maybe he went to a different university and took up engineering, and maybe he roomed with a young medical student named Herbert West at Miskatonic University, and then he meets another girl named Linda. Which, by the way, this was all just basically a soft backdoor pitch for my proposed TV series called Ash versus Reanimator: The Early Years. Uh,
You do know there's a comic of that already, right?
I know, but I'm sure it wasn't about Ash and Herbert West being roomies in college.
No,
in
no, no, no.
between in between Evil Dead 1 and 2. This would have been more like a college comedy, basically. But
Uh,
anyway, but anyway, yeah. So, but also, hey, because the contents of this podcast are copyright 2025 under Broken Lighthouse Pictures Productions. Now, y'all can't steal my ideas out there, guys. Don't even try, because this is all copyrighted. Y'all be thieves, and we'll take you to court. But anyway, so 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 then that happens, and the same kind of thing happens in Army of Darkness. So if you look at the opening of this movie, which has a recap
mhm.
of Evil Dead 2, but there's a lot of new footage because they couldn't use a lot of the stuff from Evil Dead 2. So it's like a mixture of Evil Dead 2 stuff, Army of Darkness stuff, and like for instance, the chain they show, and the evil got into my hand and it went bad. So they had to reshoot that whole chainsaw sequence because they didn't want it to be as bloody as the original movie. Because apparently they were trying for a PG-13 rated Evil Dead movie and failed miserably.
Hmm.
We're not sure exactly what it was that didn't got them the R rating, because I mean he does say the F word once, but you're allowed that for a PG-13 movie. So there are people who suggest that it was the geyser of blood that comes out of the pit.
At the very beginning, yeah.
Yeah, that may have been it. That may have been. Although we also have to remember that this is 1992, and if I'm not mistaken, the late 80s, early 90s was kind of a really bad time for horror
It
movies
was.
because the MPAA was cracking down on a lot of different movies. This is the same time that like I think they cut out a lot of stuff from I think one of the Jason movies, one of the Friday
Yeah.
the 13th movies. Yeah, and same thing with like I think the last Freddy Krueger movie did the same thing. So there's a lot of that going around at the time.
Yeah.
So no different. They got some things axed,
Yeah, but
but yeah,
the thing about this movie is it doesn't really need it. This movie plays on comedy so much more than horror. It doesn't really need it.
it
And-
doesn't really. It's much more of a swashbuckling
yeah.
adventure with sword fighting skeletons and knights and epic battle sequences and magic and all that stuff. I mean, it's
It's
really
like watching
there's
Sinbad. It's like watching
it's
Sinbad, dude. That's what
yeah, it's like
it's
watching
like watching
Sinbad.
Sinbad.
Except that Raimi, Ray Harryhausen pretty much did like one type of special effects. Raimi does in this movie every kind of special effect. Everything is
Yep.
used. He would layer. I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but like the epic battle at the end with the skeleton army, it's not just skeletons. There's also zombies in there. There's also like skeletons. So he's basically like, and sometimes there's some shots in the foreground you got stop motion, you got puppet skeletons in armor and swords. Then in the midground, you've got stop motion skeletons. And then behind that, you got stunt guys in outfits. And then you got in the way, way background, stunt guys in Halloween masks, basically,
Yeah.
that you can't really see very well. But now that this movie's in 4K, you can see them a little bit more. But yeah, so all that's to say that this movie was kind of pretty much my first impression of the Evil Dead trilogy. I
Really.
saw this first. Now, I say pretty much. I put an asterisk next to that because I had heard of this series by reputation
Oh.
when I was younger, and I had watched I don't know if it was a Halloween presentation, but it was close to it on the Sci-Fi Channel right before it was sci-fi. Back in the good old days of the Sci-Fi Channel when it was new and mostly played reruns of The Incredible Hulk and stuff like that, Bionic Man. But they had a original show, well, original-ish. They did a thing where Rob Zombie came on and hosted some horror movies, and he hosted Evil Dead.
Interesting.
Yes, obviously a heavily censored version of Evil Dead, but they played it like at 10 o'clock at night,
Oh,
10 or 11 o'clock at night. And Rob Zombie is hosting this movie like a horror host, which I'm sure he loved. But I saw the beginning of that. And then it got too late at night, and I got a little trepidatious because this movie has a reputation for being like the ultimate experience in horror. So I started like watching it with the sound off, and then occasionally I would like channel surf away when there was commercials, and I'd come back to it later. So I didn't really see very much of the original Evil Dead, but I did love Rob Zombie's music, so I watched his host segments.
okay.
So I saw a very, very, very broken version of Evil Dead, uh, with a very different kind of tone to it. And I suppose if you were to see that version without the Rob Zombie segments, I think the original Evil Dead would probably play much more scarier because like most of the gore is cut out, so most of the stuff is left to your imagination. And of course, your imagination will make it even worse than what Raimi actually did. So it probably would have played very, very terrifyingly. And I always remember at the end of that, he's like, "And that was Evil Dead, one of the greatest horror movies ever made." And some people say that it got better with Dead by Dawn, which was the subtitle for Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness. And he's like, "But they didn't. They sucked." Well, Mr. Zombie, if you're out there hearing, I respectfully disagree. Because years later, after I saw Army of Darkness and thought, "Oh, this is amazing. This is beautiful. I love this," and then found out that that Evil Dead 2 and 1 came out. For whatever reason, I went out and bought Evil Dead 2 on DVD, and then watched the behind the scenes special effects featurette about it, because I thought that would like anesthetize me to some of the scarier elements to it. If I knew going into it it was fake and how fake it really was, I would be able to watch it better. And it worked for me actually. It worked. It really did. And so then I watched Evil Dead 2 a lot, and I've loved it more and more. In fact, now Evil Dead 2 is my favorite horror movie of all time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It is. It used to be Gremlins. For a very long time it was Gremlins, but now it's definitely Evil Dead 2. In fact, I consider it one of the great regrets of my life, Kevin, that scheduling conflicts kept me from being on that episode of Conversations in Horror.
Which one?
The Evil Dead 2 one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
we're doing Army of Darkness now, and then we still have the Evil Dead, and then the remake of the Evil Dead and Evil Dead Rise, and of course the new one comes out next year. So we have plenty more to get to, hopefully.
Oh
And
yeah.
all good.
Yeah. So, but what's funny is though, so I did buy, so watched Army of Darkness on TNT, not knowing it's not quite the theatrical version. Bought Evil Dead on DVD without having seen it before. That's how I watched that. And then years later, when there was still VHS hanging around, we rented. I don't know how Dominic, my cousin Dominic. Hi Dom, if you're out there listening. My cousin Dominic, who is a firefighter at Florida Madeira Beach Fire, he somehow got a VHS copy of the original Evil Dead, and we were like, "Okay, we're finally gonna actually watch this," because he also loved Army of Darkness as I did. Mm-hmm. So we sat down and watched the original Evil Dead, and it got really awkward when they got to the tree rape sequence. I was like, I was apologizing. I'm like, I'm sorry, Dom. I'm sorry. I suggested this. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Everything else was great, but that part's rough. That's rough.
No, it's just, it may be hard to watch now, but I don't know if it's rough or not. Only because Sam Raimi hasn't ever done another horror film that's like almost all strictly horror with no humor in it.
He came close with Drag Me to Hell.
That has a lot of dark humor in that one.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what his next one's up. What's it called? It's a survival. What?
Send Help.
Okay. Well, yeah. We'll see how that one works out.
No, that one definitely has to have some dark humor in it, with just having the two actors on there. I believe that one will be another good one. I've always loved Sam Raimi's films. I don't think there's a film of his as a director or writer that I did not enjoy. I think that he has always been consistent with what he put out there. uh, and and he's very versatile. Like I love A Simple Plan. I
Oh,
freaking love that.
Simple Plan's a masterpiece. Although I haven't seen The Gift, which
The Gift is
supposedly
also a great one.
it's
I
also
love The
good.
Gift too.
Okay, what about his baseball movie For Love of the Game?
I love the concept of that one. I've not seen that one that often because when I watch a baseball movie with Kevin Costner, I go back to Bull Run.
Bull
Bull
Durham,
Durham.
yeah,
Bull Durham. I
everyone does that. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, that's hard. That's like the epitome of greatness right there when it comes to baseball movies. And then I'll watch Field of Dreams, and then For Love of the Game is like down on that list because then I'd watch Tin Cup, and he's just done so many great sports movies. But Sam Raimi, I think, in my opinion, because the only movie of his I have not seen is Crime Wave, which I own, but I haven't seen it yet. I think that this one for me is where he balances the comedy extremely well with this movie, and I think it's so rewatchable and it's so enjoyable every time I watch it because it's so well timed and well placed. And part of that is because of Bruce Campbell. And part of that is exactly the direction because there's so much Three Stooges in this movie that it's like if you whether you're a Three Stooges fan or not, you gotta love this movie for the humor in it, the physical humor in
The
this movie.
slapstick humor that he does in this. Well, I think he turns it up to 11.
Yes.
The highest in the graveyard sequence, which we'll talk about as we go through it. But like, it's I laughed so hard when I watched that the first time. He's getting slapped literally by all these different skeleton hands that flap like they're clearly made of rubber, and and they're coming at him like at positions that are literally impossible. And he does the whole like put his finger. If you're watching we're not doing video quite yet, but like, the whole put your finger, your hands over the bridge of your nose and block the whole Three Stooges eye poke thing. They do that with skeletons and they get around it. But like poor Ash. Forget Bruce Campbell as an actor for a moment, but we'll get back to him because he's amazing. In fact, he's one of two actors that if I ever met in real life, I would be starstruck. There's two people like that. Bruce Campbell is one and Christina Ricci is the other. My brain would explode if I ever met those two people in real life. God forbid they're in the same room. I don't know if I'd survive. But anyway, I would be a puddle of festering blob. But like, he's basically the Job of his universe. Like he's constantly loses things and gets put through the ringer physically, emotionally, spiritually, just everything. And like the first movie, he's just a guy. He's not that bad. In fact, he's barely the main character. And the first people that you think it's this other guy, I can't remember his name, Scott, I think. You think Scott's the main character, and then he dies midway through the movie. So Ash is really just the final girl. In fact, I was shocked to find out when I played the video game Evil Dead Hail to the King that Ash's full name is Ashley Williams.
Yeah.
So he has a girl's name.
Ashley Williams.
Which makes him a final girl, basically. He is the first male final girl in horror history.
I don't know the year for this, but you could be mistaken. It could be what was it, Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Well, see, I've never seen Nightmare on Elm Street 2 all the way through, so
sorry.
I've seen the first one and the last one.
Oh Jesus! No, I was just I just wanted to put that out there for you. But I'm not going to talk down about the movie because I actually really enjoyed the second Friday, Nightmare on Elm Street. I really enjoyed that one. But it's the only one with a final guy in there as well.
Yeah,
but
I do think. Yeah, but I do think I was going to say it before I forget. I don't want to forget this train of thought because I think it's part of the allure of this movie. It's not just the humor, which is great. It's not just the insane camera work, which is amazing. But like Ash himself has become a horror icon for a reason. Because I'm looking back around, he is the anti-hero of this gallery of horror heroes. And really, there's not that many horror heroes. We got a lot of great monsters. We got a lot of great horror villains.
Yeah.
But as far as horror heroes go, we don't really have that many. There's Van Helsing, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Laurie Strode, I guess.
Well, that's because she's keeps coming back in sequel after sequel.
I guess Tom Atkins and everything he does. That's about it. That's all we got. Oh man, with Vampire Hunter D from Vampire Hunter D. That's it. That's all we got. I mean, I guess you could throw Ben from Night of the Living Dead in there, but he doesn't last very long. Spoilers for that movie. But it's like he's it in terms of like the Slayer, but also he's got quippy lines. He's got a great sense of humor, but he's an anti-hero. He's a selfish, prideful, blowhard coward, basically, who just wants to go home. That's all he wants. He doesn't want to save the world. He doesn't want to kill monsters. He just wants to get out and go home and preferably get his girlfriend back, which is the big thing in the two movies, but he could never have her, of course, because, when you chop your girlfriend into pieces with a chainsaw, it's kind of hard to go back from that. But like, yeah, he keeps, but it's like, and he's terrible at what he does, except he's really good at killing deadites. That's all he's really good at, is killing the monsters. But yet he's just dumb enough to make mistakes that facilitate more incursions of the evil.
Well, that's one of the great things about the character and why people like him and how he keeps coming back, because we see that more explored in the TV show Ash vs. the Evil Dead.
Oh, and in the TV show, they make him even stupider, if that was even possible.
I know, if that was even possible, but they managed to do it and do it well for 3 seasons.
Yeah. Yep, they did. God bless you, Bruce Campbell. If you're out there listening, we love you.
Yeah.
But what's funny though is, like, as I was thinking about the movie again and thinking about Ash and his legacy, like, to me, I think there's something deep seated. If we're gonna get a little bit of Jungian, we're gonna get real highfalutin for a second here, folks. Yeah. But bear with us. We'll get back to the silliness soon. I think this will be a unique, because I don't hear anybody else talking about this, but I really do think that Ash as an anti-hero is basically the reincarnation of Odysseus from the Odyssey. Because think about it. If you actually read the Odyssey, especially if you read Emily Wilson's translation of the Odyssey, which is like the newer one, you realize, wait a minute. I'm not sure Christopher Nolan quite understands this, because from what I've seen, I'm not sure he quite gets the read of this, because I think Homer meant for Odysseus to be an anti-hero, because Odysseus constantly is making mistakes that get all his men killed, and yet they keep following him to all these things, and all the things he does to get them out of situations really aren't that smart. Like the Cyclops in the cave. First of all, he got them into that situation in the first place. But then the Cyclops blocks their entrance, and he's like, oh, you know how we get rid of the Cyclops? Let's take a big log, and we'll sharpen it, and it'll be a big, giant spear. And then when the Cyclops is asleep, we're going to ram it right into his one eye. Ha-ha, he's blind. Now he can get out. Yeah, that's real smart, Odysseus. But yet, somehow, because he has the favor of the gods, he still survives. And that's part of what I think is neat about the anti-hero, is that the typical hero, all the glory due to him is due because he's so smart, or he's so strong, or he's so whatever. But the anti-hero succeeds not because of all those things. He succeeds in spite of himself. And in a classical sense, he succeeds because he is, my favorite phrase is God's favorite idiot. Like, my favorite version of that, of course, is Deadpool, where he's literally called, I think in Deadpool 3, you are God's favorite idiot. Yeah. Where you're stupid and you always do these things wrong, but someone up there likes you. And I think ultimately that gives, more glory to the creator in the sense that he chooses to work through this idiot. Although in Sam Raimi's universe, not only does he choose to work through this idiot, he also wants to torment this idiot.
Yes.
Because, well, I mean, you can't say that Ash doesn't deserve it because, I mean, he kind of does. But I don't know.
He's a loudmouth braggart.
He is a loudmouth braggart. He literally is called that by a character at some point. In fact, in the director's cut, at the eve of the big battle with all the skeletons, he literally runs away like a coward and goes into a freaking back room. The comic book apparently explains it that he has a little moment where he gets himself back up and gets behind the death car that he's created and just vrooms out. But yeah, for a moment there, he totally Shaggy and Scooby's it and go. So yeah, he is not the best hero, but I think he is a classical anti-hero that we as a cultural society have been constantly going back to for generation after generation for reasons I'm not entirely certain of, except that it kind of reminds us that no matter how big and strong or smart or clever some of our heroes are, maybe behind the curtain they're really just lucky or they're really blessed.
So I believe the way that the best anti-heroes have been created are like that. You mentioned two of them, which is Deadpool, and we have Ashley Williams here. But I would also add in there Snake Plissken, who also is these characters don't change. They are who they are, and they will keep going that way through the entire story, no matter what. It does not matter what gets in their way, and they don't matter who they have to sacrifice sometimes. They don't care because they only have their own goals at heart. But yet, they're God's favorite idiot. Doesn't matter how much they screw up or how many people get killed around them, they'll still come out on top despite their mistakes. And that's how I see I see the best anti-heroes work like that.
Mm-hmm.
There are some that defy that logic, and they're questionable on how successful they are, in my opinions. But I believe that it's much more enjoyable to watch those characters when they are like that. I mean, it's one of the reasons I love the character Kurt Russell's character in Big Trouble in Little China. Another I can't think of his name all of a sudden.
John Carpenter?
No, the Kurt Russell's character.
Oh gosh, he's Jack Burton.
Jack Burton. Another one of those characters who he seems like the biggest idiot in the world, and he always causes himself more problems, but he gets lucky all the time.
Yeah. Well, in Jack Burton's case, which by the way, there is speculation that Big Trouble in Little China might have been an influence on this movie, because Little China came out first, and surely Sam Raimi was a huge John Carpenter fan. But anyway, as well as are we. But it's funny, like in that movie though, it's by design because they were expressly trying to flip the racist trope of having the white hero have a capable Asian sidekick. And so they decided to make the white hero stupid and make the Asian sidekick be the guy who gets all the glory and actually does the heavy lifting and literally conk Jack Burton on the head and have him just lay there unconscious throughout the entire climactic battle. And that was just John Carpenter's genius, and that's why he's that way. But with this is an evolution of a character, because like I say, he started off as just kind of a final girl, and then he gets a little bit more kind of braggarty and idiotic and cheesy, kind of hey, and also becomes kind of the hero from Housewares at the end of Evil Dead 2, in what is the greatest moment in cinema when he suits up and gets the chainsaw hand, revs it up for the first time, cuts off the barrel on his boomstick, and says groovy, which he totally does in this movie too, but different context when he makes a different machine, his incongruous robot hand made out of medieval armor that literally makes RoboCop sound effects as he crushes goblets, and then snap zoom, groovy.
Yeah.
Not as powerful in the second movie, but again, I saw this first. So to me, that moment played like a really awesome kind of prequel to Army of Darkness.
Well, to be honest with you, there is a lot of callbacks in this movie to what happened in the previous movie. Like, there's a lot of parallels, and if you've never, if for audiences who saw this one first, like you did, you wouldn't have noticed any of that type of stuff. I only noticed it as a kid because I'd seen the second movie like 1,000 times before the third one actually come out. I don't know of any other person who was anticipating wanting to see this third movie as much as I did, which is probably why it takes to the box office. I don't like. I didn't follow box office stuff back then, but even then, when I saw this movie, I realized that no one else went to go see this movie because when I went to school and told everybody about the greatest movie that came out, no one knew what the hell I was even talking about. Like, they hadn't seen trailers, they hadn't seen the movie, and I was a little bit left out of the crowd for a while there until it came about that people actually this movie became a cult movie. Like, everybody I know has seen this movie, and they may have never seen the first two movies at all. They've just seen this movie. Mostly because of reputation, I believe. I mean, the reputation for this movie is out of this world because of Bruce Campbell. I think most people have seen this movie because of Bruce Campbell. Not
Yeah,
so
and
much
that brings me to a question that I've heard other people try to figure out this question, but there is no definitive answer. Maybe we could figure it out tonight. The question is, speaking of Bruce, who, ladies and gentlemen, he's done many other movies. Just IMDb him, and you will see he's done many other amazing turns and many other amazing movies, such as Maniac Cop, freaking Briscoe County Jr., which, by the way, was my first exposure to Bruce Campbell, was The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., that great Western TV show with a orb from the future. It's amazing. But anyway, like, jack of all trades, my gosh, hundreds
Xena,
of what?
notice.
Xena Warrior Princess,
Yeah.
yes, that'll come. I want to get back to that because that factors into another story. You know what, frickin', I'll just say it right now because this factors in a little bit to like the star power of Bruce Campbell tangentially. We'll figure it out. Anyway, so again, this movie influenced me so hard that in high school, we had a creative assignment, creative writing class where we had like a very kind of lackadaisical teacher at Boca Ciega High School. I don't remember his name, but he was a tall, nerdy guy with glasses, and he had a very deep voice. Mr. Renard, I think was his name. But anyway, he gave us some kind of creative writing assignment where we could just do whatever we wanted. So, but we had to team up with another classmate, so we had to do a collaborative writing assignment, and it was the first time I'd ever done that, actually. So I don't know how we got to this story, but it ended up being like a short story / sort of script meant for it had the structure almost of a screenplay, but we wrote it in prose because at the time I was 16 and I had no idea how to write a screenplay. So me and this other nerd kid who had glasses and everything, I think his name was Patrick. I'm not sure. But me and Patrick, we'll just call him Patrick for now. If you're out there, Patrick, and you remember this, hi. But so me and Patrick, I don't know how we got onto this, but we started making I guess, fan fiction before I even knew what that was, where like Xena Warrior Princess was fighting Ares and chased Ares through a time hole and got him to the future, which is our world, and Ares was like raising an army of the dead or something, and there was zombies involved. But on this journey, she took Bruce Campbell's guest starring, mustachioed hero, Italocles, the King of Thieves, with her on this journey. And as soon as Italicus comes to the modern day, he realizes, wow, I'm really good at this thing called a gun. Like we literally wrote into the story that he finds out he's really good, even though he's never touched a gun before. He's really good with shotguns at killing zombies. And then gradually it just becomes Army of Darkness, basically by the end of the story. And their main villain was Ares possesses the body of Wayne Knight's character Newman from Seinfeld. And he becomes this wizard called the New Man. And that's who they have to fight. And then in the end, they vanquish him, and he literally Italicus literally takes a girl and says, "Give me some sugar, baby." And gets some sugar from her, and then she slaps him. Like you do. And we turned that in, and I think I got a B- on it.
Oh my God.
But
Okay.
like the question then is to me like, so why hasn't Bruce Campbell become a major star? Why did he never really get his big break? I know he talks about it at length in his first book, If Chins Could Kill, and I think he basically alluded to like he had his chance with the Phantom, like that would have been it. If Phantom had him in it, like that would have been his big leading man role, but Billy Zane got it instead.
It
But then,
still wasn't a hit.
and it still wasn't a hit. Yeah, I'm not sure even if Bruce Campbell had played that character, I'm not sure it would have been a hit. But yeah, but like, so like, why hasn't Bruce Campbell become such a huge star? My theory is this. I'll ask you what you think about it.
Okay.
My theory is that Bruce works best. His shtick, his whatever, his main talent, his lightning in a bottle, is taking that beautiful face of his, that charm, that charisma, and destroying it. And the only way that that works best, the only dance partner, if you will, if we'll use a more artful analogy, that he really jives best with is Sam. Sam Raimi is the only one who knows how to destroy that image in a way that tickles us the best. So I think maybe that's his main problem is that he never did a big commercial, not weird Hollywood movie with Sam where he was the lead. If he had done that consistently, like if he had been Darkman, I think his career probably would have been much bigger than it was. What do you think? I don't know.
Darkman wasn't a huge hit either.
Well, it was a moderate success, though. It could have been. I mean, it was much more than this movie was.
Well, the difference with Darkman is that was before superheroes was a big thing.
That's
Sam
true.
Raimi was ahead of his time. I have to admit, he was ahead of his time. Army of Darkness, no one knew it was going to be as big a cult film as it is now. It tanked at the box office. Darkman, which is a huge cult movie now, didn't do that well. Only well enough to have two straight to DVD sequels and a short-lived Marvel comic before it was completely forgotten again. I would love to see Sam Raimi revisit Darkman. I think that's a missed opportunity he should definitely revisit now. Right now, it's like perfect timing. Bring something back that's new, different, and since they're not doing the Blade movie, fucking do Darkman. That would be perfect.
Yeah. I mean, apparently the original, I mean, we may have mentioned this when we did Darkman, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, look up on our archives and go back to our Darkman episode because we had a good time doing that too. We talked very much at length about how great Darkman is. But the original, I don't know if we mentioned this, but in the original intention of Darkman, I mean, spoilers for Darkman, by the way, at the end of the movie, when Frances McDormand, God bless her, is trying to get Peyton Westlake, he puts on a new face, and that face is Bruce Campbell. So the original intention was that Darkman 2 would be a little bit lower budget, but that they would let him finally put Bruce Campbell in the lead like he wanted to. So then Darkman 2, The Return of Durant, would have starred Bruce Campbell as Darkman. And that would have made perfect sense for Darkman because Darkman says at the very end of the movie, his next to last line is, Peyton is gone. So Peyton Westlake is dead. So with every movie, you could have a different actor play Darkman and it would make perfect sense. He just puts on a new face and a slightly new voice and he's Darkman again. That's it. That's all you have to do. He could be like the Doctor from Doctor Who, basically. He could be a different guy every movie. But yeah, Bruce was supposed to be Darkman in the next Darkman movie. So you know what, guys? He could still do that.
Yeah, they could do a legacy sequel. You damn right they did.
Yeah, and just bam, it's Bruce Campbell under that with that he's the new mask, and you could have a pan over the over the closet, and you could see like the Liam Neeson face hanging in there. You can see the Arnold Vosloo face hanging in the closet, and finally you got the Bruce Campbell face. He just decided to make an older looking Bruce Campbell face and wear that. So many things we do. Why are we talking about Darkman? It's Army of Darkness
Because we love Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
We love Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
But
so
it all kind of comes back. I mean, we're talking about Bruce Campbell, and we're talking, and it's okay that we're talking about Bruce Campbell and we talk about Sam Raimi for this episode because they are essentially the glue that makes this movie work.
Oh
so
yeah.
well.
Oh yeah. And when we talk about Bruce Campbell, we have to talk about the thing that he does best in this movie, aside from the physical comedy, which is selling these lines.
Yes, yes. His swagger, as you like to call it, like from earlier, is like he seems so vain, yet he seems like the character that should never be vain because he's not as popular or groovy as he thinks he is,
Or
but
competent as he thinks he is.
yes, but he sells the lines so well. Every one of them, crackerjack timing and interpretation of these lines. Like I think if Raimi had written this script and it wasn't Bruce Campbell reading these lines, it would have been a completely different type of movie.
It would have been, and just to give credit where credit is due, it's not just Raimi writing this. Raimi and his brother Ivan Raimi,
Ivan,
who is not even a professional screenwriter, he's a medical doctor. So that's probably part of the charm of this movie is that it is co-written by someone who's basically an ignorant artist. And I don't mean that in a derogatory term, Ivan, Mr. Raimi, if you're out there listening, but like he wasn't raised with the rules of, he didn't read Sid Field. He didn't read any of this, crap that they force you to read or they tell you got to read, or freaking Robert McKee. I don't know if McKee was around back then, but anyway, Sid Field certainly was.
Sid Field certainly was.
But like, he doesn't so there's like so I think it's part of the charm of this movie is that it is written by someone who doesn't really understand what's supposed to quote work for a movie. He just does what's funny to him and what's interesting to him. So there's these two brothers basically, just made each other laugh, and this is what they came up with. Gems like this. And then you know what? I'm gonna say it's like some of my best Bruce Campbell impersonation. Some of my favorite lines in order of from favorite to most favorite.
Okay.
I love I don't know why, but I love when he goes, whoa, 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 spinach chin. Like he calls Merlin spinach chin. Whoa, 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 spinach chin. And then of course my next favorite after that would be, oh, what a horrible nightmare. He's lying on the floor in the windmill sequence, which is probably the only time this movie becomes an Evil Dead movie again, is the windmill sequence. He goes to this abandoned windmill on his journey to find the Book of the Dead, because that's the only thing that's going to get him back to his time. But like, it's an abandoned windmill that looks really well kept, actually. Mm-hmm. But for reasons, he is tormented by little versions of himself, and they're all evil. And they've got him tied to the ground, but he's knocked out. And now he comes to and says, oh my God, what a horrible nightmare. Wait a minute. I can't move. I don't know why I like that. I still sometimes will say to people like, oh, what a horrible nightmare when I'm waking up from a nap or something. Well, God, I can't move.
Well, because that sequence, like some of the best in this movie and in the entire Evil Dead franchise, that scene in the windmill with in the little bitty ashes reminds me so much of Ash when he's in the cabin in the second film when he's back his hand. The slapstick comedy that happens where the hand in the second one is always outwitting Ash, and the little ashes are outwitting him in this film. It's so, and that's one of those things I was telling you about earlier when there's so many callbacks to the second film. This is probably one of the most overt ones because they are so much alike, and it's so hilarious to watch both of them in their different ways because it's still Ash terrorizing himself. first one was his severed hand. This one, his reflections, his multiple little reflections of himself.
There's a whole Freudian subtext here with this, where like the unconscious Ash comes out to torture himself. I mean, you get a brief glimpse of that in what's one of my favorite sequences that's genuinely terrifying in Evil Dead 2, where Ash he can't process all the horrors that he has seen thus far in Evil Dead 2, and he just like stares at himself in the mirror and says, all right, get a grip, buddy.
Yeah.
Get a grip. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. And then all of a sudden, his mirror reflection jumps out at him and grabs him by the shoulder and says, "What do you mean, okay? We just chopped up our girlfriend with a chainsaw. Does everything sound fine?"
Yeah.
And even in the commentary, they say, "Oh, that's the first appearance of Evil Ash, who becomes basically the villain of this movie of Army of Darkness." But like these little people, these little Lilliputian ashes are like the first incarnation of Evil Ash
Mhm.
because they get him to eat one of them, and he takes some steaming tea. There's like a little bit of hot chocolate, come on, and then pours it down his throat. Doesn't burn his tongue somehow, but then gets it down into his belly. He's like, yeah, see, that'll teach you, huh? That'll teach you. And then suddenly he starts growing another head, and the head separates from him, defying all laws of physics, and becomes his double, which leads me to another great line. Not one of my favorite, but like he eventually shoots this double after it starts tormenting him,
Yeah.
Sam
Yeah.
Raimi style. And he says, he shoots him after the thing says, "You're a little goody two shoes. You're a goody two shoes. You're a goody two." Ah, boom. And in the version I saw, he says, "Good, bad. I'm the guy with the gun."
Yeah.
But the I think not as good version is the one that's in the theatrical version, which is I'm not that good. I mean, it makes sense, but it doesn't. It's not as funny.
That's not
It's
in
not
the
as
theatrical version.
cool.
That may be
Well,
the television version.
I don't know, but like the version I first saw had good, bad. I'm the one with the gun.
Yeah,
Um,
that theatrical version has that one too.
okay, well, actually, now that I think about it, that I first saw that in the
TV?
brown paper bag bootleg edition, which has the original title, because literally the title is Bruce Campbell versus Army of Darkness. It doesn't say Bruce Campbell in Army of Darkness. It's Bruce Campbell versus
Yeah.
the Army of Darkness. But yeah, so I mean, I might be wrong on that. But like,
Who knows?
yeah,
I only knew there was two versions. So and like I said, this film has multiple different versions out there, and over time you kind of forget what's in which one. Like I have with the Dawn of the Dead versions, since I've seen all three versions and I've watched them way too many times. I couldn't tell you the difference between each of them anymore,
yeah.
because I've seen them.
I have to say, like, you know how you have those three versions, and I'm sure you have your favorite of those three, right? Of the
No,
Dawn of the Dead. Of the Dawn of the
no,
Dead. You got your
I
favorite?
watched them all interchangeably because
Oh,
of
you
the
like them
score.
all.
I like the score for the Italian version.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
shorter, but I
I could
like
have been.
scenes in the Romero's original cut. So
Yeah,
it depends on what mood I'm in. If I want to watch,
yeah.
listen to the Goblin music, I'll listen to. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and some, but other times it's like you have your favorite, like your Blade Runners, for example. Most
that one I
people,
do have.
yeah, most people pick the final cut. That's their text for Blade Runner.
Yeah,
But like I think honestly, like with any of the versions of Army of Darkness, they're all great. They're all good. They're all great. It does all the only difference is, hey, do you have 90 minutes of your time, or do you have eight? Do you have 100 minutes? Do you have, it doesn't matter. If you want to see more, you can. I will say though, I think that the whatever version you do see, I feel like the international cut of the windmill sequence is the only one that makes sense because of the way it's edited. Because like in the other versions, there's no reason for him to run after the freaking mirror that creates the little lashes in the first place. But in the extended version, sorry, in the international version, you actually see him hear his horse go, "Whoop," and he's like, "Oh, I better see what's out there. So keep looking at the horses." And it shows him getting out of the windmill with his boomstick, looking around, getting spooked by his horse who does a jump scare on him. I don't know how his horse managed to do that, but I guess if anything can sneak up on Ash, it's a horse. And he's like, "Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Everything's fine." So he ties up his horse, and then as he's going back into the lighthouse, or sorry, the the windmill. He goes back into the windmill. He left the door wide open like an idiot. And then he looks inside, and there, standing in the doorway, is a dupe double of himself. And the door closes mysteriously. And he's like, oh, crap. So instead of running away with the horse, he runs towards the danger, again, like an idiot, and goes inside to see what this is. And he sees himself. And he goes running towards it and crashes into a mirror. Now it makes sense. It's long. It's, it diverts from the main action, but at least it makes sense as to why he freaking ran headfirst into a mirror.
Interesting. I did not know that. I've not seen that version. Like I said, I've only seen the theatrical version and the director's cut. I've not seen the international cut / TV cut that they did. I've not seen either one of those. So
yeah, the only drawback to seeing that cut is that it's painfully obvious sometimes where the older footage, where the extended footage is, because it's not as high quality. Like you can see there's an obvious dip in quality sometimes, and sometimes it's a little jarring. But like, especially there's a lot of special effects shots that they cut, especially for the third act. So if you can stand that, it's fine. But yeah, so my other two absolute penultimate favorite lines. One, of course, from the end of the movie, where the evil witch says, "Who the hell are you?" And he flips his gun and says, "Name's Ash. Housewares." But that's not nearly as fantastic as the one I think pretty much everybody goes to, which is, all right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. This is my boomstick.
And he just says the whole spiel about him being S-smart. Oh, yeah, no. I still love that line. There's so many great lines like that. Especially when he's like talking to Sheila and Sheila wants to help him, and your primitive mind can't understand compositions and molecular structures.
And what's great about the great Bruce Campbell's performance in that moment is it's painfully obvious, as he's saying, your primitive mind can't understand these things. It's painfully obvious that he cannot understand these things either.
There's just so many. It's his delivery. It's not just the lines that are written. It is Bruce Campbell's delivery of those lines that sells everything he says. And it's not. I always wonder if Sam Raimi and Ivan Raimi are writing this character to fit him, because he is so much Ashley Williams and Bruce Campbell is, and it's like, even in Ash versus Evil Dead, it's so freaking spot on perfect in every episode what Bruce Campbell does with this character, and it's Ashley Williams. Ashley Williams has just gotten older, but he hasn't changed much.
Now, if anything, he's got even worse. But yeah,
he's gotten even worse.
But yeah, I feel like that. Although going back to that, when he's talking with Sheila, who we haven't even mentioned, is the love interest in this movie. Although it's not really much of a love interest. I have to say, like, watch it. Well, I didn't really full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, all of my movies are in storage right now, and I cannot get to them. I'm an idiot. I wish I had taken it out and put it there so that I could easily access it, but I didn't think to do that. So, and like I said, right now, it's a little hard to find this movie on streaming for free. So instead, for preparing for this podcast, I actually just rewatched Red Letter Media's review of this movie, which is pretty much a commentary mixed together with like archival interview stuff of Sam Raimi and other people and Bruce Campbell. So it ended up being a really nice primer on this movie, oddly. It kind of really worked to put me back in the mood and remind me of some things. And one thing they mentioned there is, like, the one thing that really doesn't work in this movie is the love interest. I feel like they should have done a little bit more for them to connect. There's really nothing between them. I mean, it's just like she goes in, like, at first she hates him. She like punches him because she thinks he's one of Henry the Red's men, when Arthur the King, which, by the way, side note, the very first line of this movie, like I said, is, as near as I can tell, it's 1300 AD, and I am being dragged to my death. If we are to believe that this king, whose name is Arthur, and has a spinach-chinned advisor, I'm not sure, but I think in the credits his name is Merlin. If we are to believe that this is King Arthur and Merlin in Camelot, then Ash's appraisal of the time period is way off, because most scholars agree that 1300 AD, King Arthur, if he existed at all, which highly unlikely, but okay. He would not have been kicking around in 1300 AD. So, yeah. Anyways, so but like so Sheila thinks he's one of the bad guys that killed her husband, and so she hits him. But then when she finds out that he's actually not a bad guy, that he kills Deadites, which is a foul breath that has befell this nation as well. So both Henry the Red and King Arthur question mark are both being assailed by the evil dead. But then she makes a blanket for him. He's like, I made this blanket for thee. And he's like, great, I'll need another horse blanket. And then she slaps him again. And then he's like, and then grabs her and without her consent, kisses her and says, give me some sugar, baby. And then they get together and depending on which version you have, you might see more or less of what happens next. That's it. That's it. That's all there is.
That's all there needs to be, in my opinion. You cannot believe that Bruce Campbell's Ash is going to be someone who can woo any woman. And so
he wooed Linda. He wooed both Lindas.
Well, Linda's different. He wooed Linda before they went to the cabin.
I know, but there had to be something,
And by the time we get to Army of Darkness, Ash Williams isn't that if you take into consideration he was like a Nebish type of character in the first film, and then he just becomes Ash during his experiences in the second film. By the third film, when he's been killing Deadites left and right, it is like I'm groovy and everyone just loves me type of character after that.
Although it should be noted though, like we see this like over years, like you waited 5 years to see this movie and all that. But let's not forget that for Ash, in the time continuity of this movie, his girlfriend Linda died yesterday. For him, I mean, he hasn't really slept in 14 hours, but it's crazy, although, I mean, he does have this great scene where, he's laying there in a chair and beautiful women are feeding him grapes. He's like, first you want to kiss me, first you want to kill me, then you want to kiss me. Blow. Which, by the way, I didn't know this until today when I was researching, but like that sequence was supposed to be much bigger, but they ran out of money. Like there was supposed to be like the Pit Witch. Sorry, not the Pit Witch. That's a whole other thing. I had her action figure, but this is a different witch. There's like several horror hags in this movie, but like the second horror hag that shows up in this kind of throne area where Ash is getting fed grapes, and the wizard tells him that, if you get to the Book of the Dead, there is a spell that might send you back. Mm-hmm. But if you do that, then you won't be able to help us destroy the evil here. He's like, all I want to do is get back home. And then the evil witch spills the boiling water, and it turns out, Deadite, played by Patricia Tallman, who was Barbara in the Night of the Living Dead remake. So she's basically doing her stunt girl duties here, and she's fantastic. But anyway, that whole sequence is just like 4 walls, and it's very small. Originally, it's supposed to be like all these columns in this huge like indoor colonnade, and like the witch was supposed to come down the columns and knock down them like dominoes, and then show up and like fly around and freaking assault Ash that way. It was supposed to be huge. Apparently, like they built the miniature and knocked them down, but for whatever reason, they're like, we don't have enough money. So guess what? We're literally gonna trim this down and reshoot it in a garage. This movie is huge, and they shot stuff in a garage.
Well, that's the thing. I get the impression that this movie was designed to be very big, and then when they started shooting it, they started cutting back on stuff because it was a period heavy movie. I don't know. I actually, when my books on Sam Raimi and on the Evil Dead franchise focuses on the first 2 movies in the franchise and not so much the Army of Darkness, which was kind of sad for me because I'm a huge fan of all 3. But I have 2 books. I think it's 2 books that focus on these, but they mostly focus on the first 2 films and not so much the third film, which is kind of sad. So I don't know much about that. I just know how much I love the movie, to be honest with you.
Well, what much I do know about the production, the troubled production of this movie, was from Bruce Campbell's book "If Chins Could Kill," which I highly recommend y'all get a copy of that or check it out from your local library because it's great. Because Bruce Campbell, in addition to being a great actor, he is also a very gifted writer, and his book is very funny and very filled with lots of great advice for uh, starting out filmmakers and actors. And he made a sequel to that one. Further, I can't remember the name of it, but it also has the word "chin" in the title because, of course, why not? And he wrote that book because things had changed so much in the industry that he needed to update it. So basically, that's what he did. So I recommend getting both those books, which I did.
Both too, but I haven't read either one of them. I haven't had time to sit down and read them yet. I would love to get Bruce Campbell to sign both of them. I tend to get my stars that I get signatures for to sign their books and stuff. I don't know why. I prefer that over the pictures and stuff like that. I'd rather.
You know what, Kev? If you don't have time to read, but you have time to listen to audiobooks, I hear that the audiobook of Bruce Campbell's If Chins Could Kill is amazing because he does it.
Oh, nice.
And there are tons of pictures and graphics and behind the scenes photos in that book spread throughout. And and the way he makes it work in audio is he just describes what the picture is.
Okay.
And so that makes the audiobook its own pleasurable, funny experience in and of itself. But
I love when writers do that. I love when they do their own audiobooks too. I always find those much more interesting. I know
it is.
I know it's
It
tough to
is.
say, but I love right now because of the controversy surrounding him. But I love Neil Gaiman's audiobooks when he reads his own books. They're freaking phenomenal, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, he's a gifted storyteller for sure. Like
And when he reads his own books, it's simply amazing. But he's like taboo right now.
yeah,
But
but
who
you know, a
isn't in
lot
this
of
day and age anymore? To be honest,
I know. Well, a lot of great authors were terrible human beings too, and artists, yeah. But by and large, there's no controversy around Mr. Campbell. Thank God.
thank God, thank God.
Yeah, yeah. But of course, like I forgot to mention this, but like when we were talking about the graveyard sequence,
Mhm.
which is probably the funniest whole sequence in the movie, um, uh, they have like a first kind of medieval trope, which is the the test. So they test Ash because the wizard says you must go retrieve the book from the graveyard. How it got there in the first place, I have no idea. But anyway, they he goes there and you have to get the book and then you have to recite the sacred words from the Book of the Dead and say Klaatu Barata Niktu. Repeat them. He's like Klaatu Barata Niktu. Yeah, I got it. We'll repeat it again. I got it. I got it. I got your damn words. So, but he gets there, and there on the headstone is not one, but two, but three books of the dead. And interestingly, like one of them is on this crumbled cross, which that should have been his first clue. That's the true Book of the Dead, but Ash is an idiot, so of course that's the last one he picks. He's like, whoa, 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 hey, that stupid wise man didn't tell me anything about three books. All right, which one am I supposed to take? All of them or one? So he's like, they're one of them bites him, one of them tries to suck him down into a hole of oblivion, but they finally gets the right one, but he's got to say the words. And those words, if you haven't figured it out, folks, those are the words that the lady is supposed to say to Gort the robot in the Day the Earth Stood Still in order to get him to not kill her with his laser eye. Klaatu Barata Niktu. But, of course, because Ash is an idiot, he cannot remember the last word. Klaatu Barata. Oh, what? Nectar. Necktie. And he's like, definitely an N word. and he just does it with a. Well, another story about that from my own life, Kevin, is that I almost I'm going to call this little segment here not unfinished production projects, but projects that should not have been. From the life of Thomas Tinnerillo. I once had an idea for a sketch comedy show with my cousin Dominic, And we never made it like on film, but one of the ideas for a comedy sketch that we had was based on this scene from Army of Darkness. And it would have just been like a fake movie trailer with Ash, or maybe Dominic and my cousin, like dressed up as Ash because he looks kind of sort of more like him than I do. But anyway, which isn't saying much. But anyway, he would be there in the graveyard saying, nectar, necktie, definitely an N word. And then his eyes shift knowingly, thinks, okay, all right. And then spreads his arms out wide and says, oh gosh, this is going to get me canceled, but I'm just going to say it in a way that hopefully will be okay. Klaatu, Barata, N-word, and a bunch of African-American skeletons come out of the ground and go, what did you say? And attack him.
Oh my God.
And then it says, coming this summer, The Black Evil Dead. So it would have been like a blaxploitation Evil Dead.
You know what? If Jordan Peele was doing it right now, it'd probably be a success.
Yes. Yeah. So,
and for everyone listening, I say that with loving support of Jordan Peele because he's one of my favorite directors, and we've already discussed Us on the program, and we will be getting to his other two films really soon. So be on the lookout for those. But yes.
so like, yeah, it's so I mean, before, like, ladies and gentlemen, I preface this again. It was a lot funnier when I thought it was a lot funnier in the 90s when I came up with that idea. These were kids. We were kids. We didn't know any better. But I thought, anyway, that's all for this segment of projects that should not have been. But yeah, so this movie keeps going on and goes into wild tangents. Well, not tangents, but like things that like you're like, why? Oh, like, I forgot to mention this movie has not one but two pterodactyl Evil Deads, like Deadites.
Mhm.
Like they're freaking. There's one in the beginning of the movie and one in the middle of the movie that kidnaps Sheila, and he's like, Sheila, and it's just a flying Deadite for no reason. Like, I don't know why, because like the evil possesses the corpse and turns into an animated thing.
Trying to figure out where that thing came from.
Yeah, it's a bat creature. What the what?
There is no explanation for that in this movie. They just are. And
Oh, you know what? You know what? Oh, wait. I figured it out. Okay, wait. I got it. The, it's not unprecedented because you did have evil Henrietta in the basement of Evil Dead 2 turn into a freaking ostrich zombie, basically, for no reason. And we didn't question that at all. Because by the time that movie happens, we've seen so many weird things there. Doesn't even phase us. I think it's because they did it twice in this movie.
yeah,
That we're like, is there like just a whole like air support of the evil that just comes? I don't know. I'm beginning to think that maybe those flying things weren't really Deadites. They were like just demons incarnated. They're just like hell's air support that just swoops in and helps the evil whenever they're trying to take over the world.
I'd have to go back to the end of Evil Dead 2 to see what the flying creature that Ash kills at the very end of that movie looked like. Because for some reason I can't remember exactly what it looked like or not. I don't know why I can't remember that. But remember he blows its head off. And that's when everyone starts to bow down to him at the end of that movie. Obviously,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen in this movie because they rewrite that whole little sequence there for the better.
Yeah. Yeah, they did, and they also shot in a completely different location too.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Also, we should probably mention, otherwise some things won't make sense. Somehow the time portal also sucked his car in with him.
Yeah.
And that great old classic Oldsmobile, which is in literally every single Sam Raimi movie ever made. I think there was like, what was it? I think he was trying to sneak it into the period movie that he did. I can't remember what it was.
Oz.
Yeah, like somehow it's in Oz the Great. Oh, he turned it into a. Oh, allegedly the chassis for that car is a chassis for one of the carriages in Quick and the Dead. That's what it was.
I forgot that's period too. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a Western, so it's possible. I don't know for sure, but Sam really loves that car and loves to destroy it and put it back together again. But
Did you watch it?
what? Yeah, the watch Quick of the Dead again. Yeah, because there's always a great reason to see that. But he does take that car and turns it into the ultimate Deadite killing machine at the end of the movie when Sheila's been kidnapped and somehow turned into a sexy evil zombie lady to be like the queen of Evil Ash, who has now risen from the grave and looks like a fried hamburger version of Darkman now. And that's when you get the whole army. Like, this movie is called Army of Darkness. Where's the army coming from? Well, it was Evil Ash rising them from the graveyard, all those skeletons. But yet, it wasn't even Evil Ash who did it. It was Ash who did it by screwing up Klaatu Barada Nikto in the first place.
Yep.
So, again, Ash is here to solve problems, and he ends up actually making things worse in a exponential way, and then has to then solve that problem, which he does by, turning the villagers into fighting men, making a death machine car, and just running around being awesome with his his guns, shooting everything. Which, by the way, we can't even have time to get into all the great things that come to that last battle scene, which is a masterclass in how to take what limited resources that you have and make something that should be defies your imagination and make it huge.
Yeah.
And I think the way that Raimi makes it work is that he just does everything. He throws everything at you. Some of it doesn't quite work, but by golly, there's so much momentum to the story that it doesn't really matter that you're seeing just freaking the death car come by and just cut off like skeletons that are just like standing still, not doing anything. They're just waiting for him to cut this huge fan to cut them. And they're set up like scarecrows, basically. It's so obvious that they're just there, they're not even animated. It bothered me a little bit, but after a while, I don't even care anymore. But
well, you bring up something that makes the ending of this film, or for the most part, the entire film work, and that's the pacing and the momentum. I mean, once Ash starts his journey toward the Necronomicon, this movie doesn't let up. It's like one big fast-paced adventure from there on out. And everything before that is kind of like, and it's brief, everything before that is a brief setup for Ash on how he got there and the setup for the story. But once he's heading off on this journey for the Necronomicon, it never stops. And it doesn't feel long and it doesn't feel too short. It's like perfectly paced with enough side stories that make it entertaining. Like going to the windmill sequence is a side story that's just fucking hilarious. I mean, really, it is hilarious as shit. And then, of course, it sets up for Evil Ash, who is the main antagonist. Like, there is no main antagonist until Evil Ash shows up. The main antagonist is just the Necronomicon itself, the evil.
Well, that's the thing. Like, they have to have something to represent the evil by this time. You have to have a main antagonist. I mean, technically speaking, my golly, I love things that are metaphors that are also literal. Like, Ash is metaphorically his own worst enemy.
Yes.
And he's also literally his own worst enemy.
No, I love that about this movie. I mean, that's one. Like, you think that with or without the Evil Ash, audiences know that Ash himself is his worst enemy because of the type of character he is. And then, like you said, both literally and figuratively in this film, it also plays out, and it plays out extremely well.
Yes, and it had a great sword fight. They were trying to do the sword fight between him and Evil Ash and a couple other Deadites in a Buster Keaton sort of way. Like, they were originally trying to have it to where he's going up the stairs, up the parapet, and he's got two guys on each side. He got Ash, and he's like Evil Ash, and they're sword fighting in one shot. He was trying to do it as a oneer, but too much money. Can't do it, Sam. Okay, well, let's just do it in pieces then. We got this here, that there, that there. I want to set it together. Yeah, it'll work. And it did. It did. But like those are one of the few times where Sam's uh ambition outweighs his budget. He had so much technical ambition, it just wasn't gonna fly. But maybe someday, or maybe he shouldn't make that, because there's an argument to be made that necessity is the mother of invention, and restriction creates creativity.
Just look at Jaws.
Yeah, yeah. So that's, I wonder if it would have been as cool if it was a oneer. Sometimes you don't notice that it's a oneer until you're like, oh. Or like Spielberg does it all the time, where you're like, well, that scene in Jaws where they're talking by the sign, that's all in one take. I never thought of that. Huh. But I love how, he finally fights this guy, and Evil Ash just kind of devolves, basically. At first, looks just like, first he's Little Ash, then he's Good Ash, you're Bad Ash. He's that guy. Then he gets his face shot off and dismembered. Then he becomes Hamburger Face Ash, the Lord of the Dead.
Yep.
And then I'm not quite sure exactly how he gets to this, but I know he gets burned and becomes a skeleton. He also becomes a stop motion Harryhausen skeleton with eyes that are that roll around like pinballs, basically, at some point. And like when he gets punched, they become like little slot machine things. And at one point, his skull cap opens. You can see his little brain and makes a train sound effect.
Yep.
But this is the guy. And also, I don't know if you noticed, but Bruce Campbell also plays Evil Ash.
Yeah.
So until that moment, when he gets burned, though, from then on, from the line where he goes, "I got a bone to pick with you," that's no longer Bruce Campbell playing Evil Ash, even as the voice. You know who is playing the voice of Evil Ash?
No.
Sam Raimi.
I'm about to say Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi is the voice of skeleton version of Evil Ash.
Oh my God.
So ultimately, Ash's true enemy is the director, Sam Raimi. And so he's fighting the skeleton. And I love that about this movie. In fact, I do voices too. So if I ever did this, I probably would definitely have a voice character that's me in there. And people would be like, hey, figure out which one is Tom. You don't know. You have to find out. But I think this is a perfect place to put in what has become a classic bit for us here at Conversations in Horror.
You want to do it? Is it time? Okay, let's do it.
It is that time, ladies and gentlemen, where we do our Schwarzenegger alternator for that great epic moment when Ash finally kills his shadow self, the Evil Ash, in his skeleton form, when all hope is lost and he's got the book, but he's standing on a catapult with a freaking a bomb, basically. It's a whole thing. Ash invented gunpowder in the 1300s because he's also an engineering genius, apparently.
Yeah.
And he lit the fuse to this thing, and he grabs the sword and he's like, I got the Necronomicon finally. And he grabs the sword, and I think he says, buckle up, right? And takes his sword and cuts the line to the catapult. After he cuts his skeletal hand off, it gets the book back from Evil Ash and goes, shink. And then that's when Evil Ash goes, and goes up into the sky and gets exploded.
Yeah.
I think his only line for that kill is buckle up. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, I guess. It's not Primitive Screwheads. It's not nearly on that level. So I feel like there should be something more for our hero vanquishing the villain of this movie, vanquishing his shadow self, the Sam Raimi avatar. So I think let's Schwarzenegger it up. But you know what? It's really hard to top what they did. It's really hard to top the pen of Sam and Ivan Raimi. So yep. I only got 3 of these, and I don't know if they're gonna be up to snuff, but by golly, Kevin, I'm gonna try.
All right, try.
So here it goes, man. Our Schwarzenegger alternator. Number 1. He cuts the hand up. Time for the fireworks, bonehead.
I like that one.
Yeah, good, because I think it's the least good one of the three.
Oh, wow.
They only get better from here. Number 2, cuts off the hand, gets the book. Sorry, that book is overdue, and so are you.
That is definitely a Schwarzenegger one.
Oh yeah, and I think that would be like the final kill line of Conan the Librarian if they ever made that movie, based on that classic sketch from Weird Al Yankovic's
Yes, I
UHF.
know. Oh my god, it's so surprising me that me and you both know that shit. Oh my god, go ahead.
And finally, number 3. Hey, evil me, get boned.
I like the first and second one. Third one was okay. I like the first and second one.
What get boned actually came from. It wasn't just me being stupid because it's a skeleton man. I came up again. This is all copyright 2025 by Broken Lighthouse Productions. I did have, when Halloween was happening, I was noticing all these skeletons like everywhere. Like last year, I don't know if you noticed this, but like skeletons were in last year. But like, I mean, last Halloween. Um, so I thought to myself, wouldn't it be funny if somebody made a movie where like there were actual like live skeletons from like India or someplace that were made as Halloween decorations and they were cursed, and maybe on Halloween night they came to life and Gremlin style terrorized the town. And I thought, wouldn't that be neat? And we call it like, Killer Skeletons or something, and the tagline could be "Get Boned."
That actually would work for a movie like that. To be honest
Yeah.
with you, I don't know how you would make that work, but you definitely could make that work, and you could sell it to the Sci-Fi channel,
The Sci-Fi. The
Sci-Fi channel.
Yeah, the people who made the people who did like Shark freaking NATO 5 would definitely be on Get Boned. Actually, you know what? Forget it. That wouldn't even be the tagline. That'd just be the title.
Oh my god,
The title of that movie is Get Boned. But yeah, oh gosh. So like that's my thing. And also like before we end our conversation, we do have to talk a little bit about the fact that this movie has 2 very different endings.
yes, let's talk about that because I was about to ask you about anything else we forgot. We definitely need to talk about the 2 definite endings. Yes.
So yeah, so like after Ash vanquishes the army of the dead and gets Sheila miraculously back to pre-undeath, and gets her back and everything, but he's like, I gotta go back to my own time. So the wizard tells him, well, in the theatrical version, he tells him, you just have to say the words because you're really good at that. Say Klaatu Vrata Niktu, and you'll be back in your own time. Well, and there's a crossfade, and he goes riding off in the sunset like Shane in an Old West. And then we fade back to the siren of S-Mart, the Kmart store where he works. And it turns out the whole time he's been telling this story to a disinterested checkout stock boy played by Ted Raimi, the director's younger brother, who has like 5 different parts in this movie already. But Ted Raimi's just sitting there looking bored as heck. Well, Ash tells him, yeah, I was a hero in a mini. I keep wondering now what Ted's reactions were when he's telling him about the graveyard sequence, or like, what was he thinking? But anyway, so of course he doesn't believe his story, but some hot lady does, kinda, and she thought it was a cool story. But then all of a sudden, the wind changes, and he's like, well, I mean, I said every word, kinda. And then another horror hag shows up, and he just pushes the girl aside really violently, I might add. and then he vanquishes this horror hag by jumping onto a cart. Well, by smashing the sporting goods department's case of shotguns, and then gets on top of the store and says, of course, lady, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to ask you to leave the store. And then he does this action movie thing where he throws the shotgun, jumps onto a cart, and puts his hand up in the air and catches his own shotgun. Which is, only Bruce Campbell can throw a shotgun to himself.
I know.
And it's loaded, of course, and he just shoots this deadite lady all to pieces. I mean, not literally all to pieces, but boom, 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 boom,
Oh,
boom. It's also one of the only times in movie history where they do a trampoline jump where you literally, it's okay that you see the trampoline because they're in the sporting goods department. He jumps off the trampoline, gets shot with an ungodly number of bullets, and then finally collapses in a heap. And we pan up to Ash going, "Sure, I could have stayed in the past." Tears his shirt off. He's got his hero shirt on underneath it with his holster for his shotgun. But in my own way, I am king. Takes the girl. Hail to the king, baby. It's probably the second best line of the whole movie that I should have put on my list, but I did not.
oh Jesus.
And that's the way the theatrical version ended.
Yes.
But there was an alternative, which really, according to Sam Raimi, was the way they wanted the movie to end originally.
Yeah.
Where Ash is told by the wizard, who may or may not be Merlin, to take this little droplet thingy, and which looks like a medieval eyedropper, basically, and take this liquid, and for every drop you shall sleep 100 years, and then you shall be back in your own time, hopefully. So he takes the death car and takes some dynamite and blows up the entrance to the cave and seals himself up in this cave in England in 1300 and takes the dots, but he takes one drop too many. And he sleeps through the ages, and he's got a huge whip and wrinkle beard. Spiders make their nests in his hair. And he gets out with his, by the way, his robot arm isn't rusted at all. He looks really good. It still functions after 500 years. And he gets out there, he's like, he sees these broken machines around him, like, technology, yes, I'm home. And he goes up over to the rise and sees a destroyed London, a wreckage of humanity, and this weird building in the middle that kind of looks like a pyramid building from Blade Runner. It's a very weird looking miniature. I think it's supposed to be a futuristic city.
Yeah.
And he totally goes like Charlton Heston in Planet of the Apes and goes, "I slept too long." Cut to black credits.
Yeah. See, I prefer the theatrical cut to that ending.
Me too. Me too. In fact, I have not really met anybody who actually legit thinks that the original ending would have been better.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody actually believes that. I think if anybody says that, they're just saying that to be contrarian, honestly. I really do.
Yeah.
So I guess this is the case to be made that sometimes test audiences are right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think with that type of movie, I think I prefer the Ash be like the kind of hero character at the end, and we get one last Deadite kill. Also, this one, the theatrical version kind of hints that there could possibly be another one if the movie had been successful. Whereas the other one, it just kind of it just is weird. It feels like the Planet of the Apes. That's a perfect example of the Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes ending. I never thought about that to you. It always felt something like that, but I had never been able to put a name or a face to it. But you saying Planet of the Apes, Charlton Heston, perfect example. Like,
yeah. Except the problem with that is that clearly it's what Raimi was going for. And also, yes, you can very easily see that is something Ash would do. That is how Ash would screw things up for himself. That it's truer to his character. Yes, you get that. But here's the reason why that doesn't work is that we see it coming a mile away. We didn't see the Planet of the Apes thing coming a mile away. We should have, but we didn't. We should have known from the get-go that he was back on Earth because the apes have horses. Are you trying to tell me that not only are you on Mr. Heston, you believe that you are on an alien planet that has such there's a scientific word for it, I can't remember. But anyway, I'm going to invent one. Co-running evolution, that this planet evolved talking apes and horses? I'm sorry, even Star Trek couldn't do that. Star Trek had, whenever they had plans with freaking horses, they put like horns in their heads or something, just to tell you these are alien horses. So yeah, no, we should have seen it coming a mile away, but the genius of that movie is that we didn't see it coming a mile away. But ever since as soon as you see him take the extra drop that he shouldn't have taken, you know what's going to happen. And you're just sitting there waiting for the inevitable. Okay. I think, though, if Raimi really wanted to sell that ending, if he really wanted it to work, he should have done this. Okay, you have Ash screw up. You have him crawl out of the cave. Excuse me. And he sees the broken city. He's like, you can have him still say, "Oh, I slept too long." The problem is that not only, you can't have that be the climax. You can't have that be the gotcha moment because it doesn't work as a gotcha. So you got to add something to it. So I think what would have worked is if you'd added some kind of circular irony, which is that Ash sees the ruined city, he stumbles down, investigates the ruined city. He's wandering around, cross dissolving. He's hopeless, and all of a sudden he sees a caravan of slaves, human slaves being chained together. Maybe they're knocking some rocks by their, taking some heavy, labor for their deadite masters. And you got these huge, like, cyborg deadites just lashing them. And then all of a sudden, Ash looks at these poor people crying out for a savior. And in his frazzled moment, he sees, like, maybe he sees lying in the rubble a diamond-studded futuristic chainsaw from a dead slave, and looks up at the sky and goes, "All right, fine." And then accepts his fate, takes on that diamond-studded chainsaw, destroys the cyborg Deadites, and all of a sudden the people around him go, "Oh, our hero has arrived. We had prophesied he would come and he would return after all these years. Hooray!" And then instead of saying no like he does in Evil Dead 2, Ash goes full crazy and just starts laughing maniacally, like in that one scene in Evil Dead 2. He just goes, "Ha ha ha, yeah!" And raises the chainsaw aloft, just like in that page from the Book of the Dead. And you can have a recreation of that final clang shot at the end of Evil Dead 2. And there you go. Because after all this, it turns out that page in the Book of the Dead was never meant to be a page of history. It was a page of prophecy, predicting the future. See?
That's interesting. That I could see much better than what they actually did with that sequence.
And it would have set it up perfectly for the apocalyptic Evil Dead. Which
Evil Dead Apocalypse.
Yeah, which it would Mad Max Evil Dead, which, I mean, technically Wormwood, Road of the Dead kind of did that to great effect. And spoilers for those who haven't seen Ash versus Evil Dead. Spoilers, but that's kind of where they end up with Ash at the end of that show anyway.
Yeah, well, also keep in mind, and I want to mention this to everyone out there, Army of Darkness was so bloody popular as a cult film that it has been one of the longest running comic book series out there based on the movie property, just like the Aliens and Predator franchise. It just never dies. It may disappear for a year, but then they always bring it back. And they've done the adaptations like we've already mentioned of Army of the Dead, Army of Darkness, and you could read all the stuff that was kind of cut out of the screenplay. It's a much different experience, and they've also did the sequels to that, and then they just kept going, like a long running series that lasted for years. I read up to, I think, probably 14 volumes of that series, where Sam Raimi was able to have Army of Darkness crossover with Darkman, Reanimator, Xena twice, or three times actually. I think 3 times. Just by everything. Bruce Willis, slash Army of Darkness crossed over to everything that Sam Raimi's properties had done, and it was kind of a callback to people who really loved what Sam Raimi created. Now, that's the only way you can see or read his stuff in a connected universe, because that's never going to happen in the film world. But it was fun to read these stories where Darkman and Army of Darkness crossed paths, or even Marvel Zombies and Army of Darkness crossed paths at one point. It was very, very entertaining and fun. Oh, and Barack Obama was in one. I forgot about that one too.
What?
Yeah.
Is there a Barack Obama zombie in that movie?
It was hilarious with Ash trying to save the president from the Deadites. It was actually really great. It was like they could do no wrong, and I'm always surprised how long it took for them to do a show, Ash versus Evil Dead, after this film, despite how popular this film had become as a cult property. It just took a really long time, and then of course now we're never going to see any more of this character, because I think Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi have retired Ashley Williams permanently because he's just getting old now. But
I have heard though that they have not ruled out the possibility of an animated thing.
Oh.
That Bruce Campbell has said that he would consider doing the voice of Ash for an animated project.
Now that would be interesting, especially in this day and age where we're getting a lot more adult animated feature-length films and projects. That would be amazing, even if it was a show, Army of Darkness show. Can you imagine how great that would be? Let's Netflix. It'd be gore everywhere. It would be uncontrollable. It would be amazing. Oh my God. And they could do literally anything that the television show wouldn't or couldn't allow them to do because of budgetary constraints.
I mean, here's the thing though. The humor of the Army of Darkness and Evil Dead has always been Looney Tunes cartoony. And now, if you could do it animated, now it really literally is the cartoon.
I think I never can pronounce his name correctly, but I think you'd have to get the guy who did Dexter's Laboratory and
Genndy Tartakovsky.
Yeah, you'd have, because his show Primal is fucking awesome. Give him that. Give him the reins to do an Army of Darkness animated show. I think it would be fucking perfect. He gets the humor and he gets the gore and bloodiness that from his Primal series. I mean, dude, it would be awesome. It'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, that is a fun show. I've seen little bits of that. Yep. Well, we eagerly anticipate what will happen with that, and until then, we'll have to just eagerly anticipate Evil Dead Burn, which is the next Evil Dead coming up.
Yes, it is. So I want to thank you, Thomas, for joining us on Conversation.
Oh, we're not forgetting something, Mr. Kevin. What? We're forgetting what we rate this movie.
I say that. I do the rating after I say I thank you.
Oh, you do? I'm sorry. I keep thinking you were gonna forget, like that one time you forgot.
I did forget one. No, but I wanted to thank you for joining us on Conversations in Horror. What we do, everyone out there, is we do a very special version of our own rating system for our show. And I'm going to let Thomas explain it to you because he's the one that came up with it and we thought it was brilliant, and we're going to do it from now on for our show. So Thomas, can you take it away for how we now rate our show?
Well, Kevin, we don't really do a 1 to 5 star because that's so based, as they say, the kids these days. Instead, we like to take an object from this movie that we feel personally defines the movie. And we take it 1 to 5, whatever that object is. It could be anything. If this were Phantasm, I'd probably pick the Chrome Sphere of Death and rate that first movie, 4 Chrome Spheres of Death out of 5. This movie is so hard to pick one because there's so many totems of the magic of this movie. There's so many. I could say 5, I could say chainsaw. What, the chainsaw? The chainsaw is iconic. It's the hand chainsaw. I could say that. Or maybe the Book of the Dead. It's the MacGuffin of the plot, after all, right? Or is it the robot hand that he makes? Ruby. Or the death car. But the death car is only in it for like a few minutes. I mean, it's iconic. It is iconic. But where's the Hot Wheels version of the death car?
Yeah,
where is that?
I'm still waiting for it.
I'm still waiting for it too. I got a Ninja Turtles van, Hot Wheels. Where's the Death car? So instead, after much soul searching and consternation, I finally figured, well, the only thing I can use to rate this movie is the boomstick.
I'm gonna kill you for stealing mine, but you go ahead.
Great minds think alike, Kevin, but I will. You know, we've gone over, like, there are a couple of things about this movie that don't work, and there are, some special effects moments that kind of take me out of the movie a little bit. But you know what? There are some times where the greatness of a thing overwhelms its flaws and causes me to say 5 boomsticks out of 5. Because this movie is perfect in its imperfection. Even in its flaws, it's perfect. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And it always makes me laugh every time I see it.
Well, I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna give it 5, but I'm gonna give it a 5. Wait, see, since you took my thunder, I'm gonna give it 5. I'm gonna give it 5 goody little two shoes.
What?
5 goody little two shoes.
Oh, I see. That's clever because the shoes are not real, but they are a metaphor. Ah, okay.
So
So for
I think this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, I mean, even though I can watch this separate from the second one, I really enjoy watching the second one and this one together. And they're almost totally tonally opposite of each other, but the humor is so entertaining. I never get tired of this movie. Never. I read the fucking comic book for probably 2 decades. Like, I don't read like any type of superhero comic book anymore. I stopped that in the fucking 90s when superhero comics became shit. But I still read like Army of Darkness because it was so damn clever on what they keep coming up with. And it's never left me. Army of Darkness has never left me. So yeah, and it never will. I've seen it way too many times. It was just one of those films that grabbed me as a kid in the 90s, early 90s, and it never let go. And I try and get as many people, like, I'm trying to talk my wife into it now. She saw me rewatching it. It was like, what are you watching? Because she's never seen it. She my wife doesn't watch horror movies that often. So she's not integrated with like
dude,
Dead
dude,
Army Dark. Yeah,
dude,
I know.
dude, Army of Darkness is not a horror
No,
movie.
it's not.
It is a swashbuckling adventure epic with some horror scenes dipped in it. Shh, don't tell her that it's a horror movie.
I should probably do that. Like, she'll watch them every once in a while, and it's on our list. My wife and I have a list of films that she wants me to watch, and I wanted to watch, and Army of Darkness is on that. By far, it's on there. Not Evil Dead 1 or 2, but Army of Darkness is on that list. And so
There you go.
one day I'll get her to talk, watch it with me. I'll get in there. But
Yeah, I know there's no way. There's no way possible that Heather's ever gonna watch Army of Darkness with me. Although, no, it's not ever gonna happen. But I think, I think she might. We did go to a convention one time. We went to 2 conventions. We went to Comic-Con and MegaCon in Tampa. And I think we cosplayed as like Doctor Who and the TARDIS at one time. And but I've yet to go to a horror con. So one day I want to go to a horror con, and I'd like to take my son with me because Tommy Jr. is just getting into creepy stuff, and I think he really would like zombie movies because he likes zombies in this game. Well, this version of Thomas and Friends that's like mixed with Fallout. They have or Cold Wars. It's complicated, but anyway, they have zombies in that game, and he loves that. And I thought, ooh, cool. You will probably love Night of the Living Dead. So I will. So I agreed with my wife. Like, next year, we'll finally show him the original Night of the Living Dead.
oh, okay.
But I have in my possession. A friend of mine gave me a present of a foam and wood chainsaw that I could stick my hand in, and it's got a splatter of blood on it on the blade. So it used to be proudly displayed in my bookshelf, but now it's in storage. So maybe next year we'll find a con to go to, and maybe then I will cosplay as Ash, because all I need is a blue shirt and some brown khakis and work boots and a little bit of blood and this chainsaw and a boomstick, and bam, I am Ash. Housewares.
And with that, I want to thank you all for joining us on Conversations in Horror. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode on Army of Darkness. Please make sure to check out our previous episode on The Evil Dead 2, as well as Darkman. We will be doing Evil Dead, the original, later on in the year, so make sure to follow, like, subscribe, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast and your favorite podcast app, Spotify, or YouTube, so you never miss an episode. Also, make sure to check out our companion podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which delves into Hammer Studio films of the bygone 60s and 70s and 80s. You're going to love it if you love classic horror movies. And then all of a sudden, at our other spectrum, check out our Conversations in 4Color podcast, which delves deep into comic books, manga, and graphic novels. That is on our Patreon only page, so you do have to be a subscriber or follower to listen to that podcast, but make sure you do, because you will enjoy that one as well. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, I want to wish you a pleasant day, and stay away from those cursed books, okay?
Klaatu, Barata.
Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.